The sea never forgets. It remembers every ship that vanished beneath its waves, every prayer whispered during storms, and every tear that fell into its depths. Sinbad the Sailor knew this truth well. He had crossed oceans that no map dared to name, survived islands that devoured men, and returned from journeys that others believed were only legends. Yet among all his adventures, there was one voyage he spoke of rarely, not because it lacked danger, but because it revealed something far more powerful than monsters or treasure. It was the journey that led him to the river of frozen tears. The voyage began without intention. Sinbad stood on the deck of his ship as dawn faded into a pale afternoon. The sea was calm, almost too calm, and the sails hung loosely, waiting for direction. His crew moved quietly, sensing that the air itself felt different. Then the wind came. It was not strong, nor gentle. It carried no scent of salt or storm. Instead, it felt heavy, as if it had passed through countless sighs before reaching the ship. Sinbad closed his eyes. "This wind is not born of the sea," he said softly. "It comes from sorrow." The sailors exchanged uneasy glances, but before anyone could speak, the ship began to move. Not forward, not backward, but sideways, as if guided by an unseen hand. The horizon shifted, and by nightfall, the stars above no longer matched the stars Sinbad knew. At dawn, land appeared. An island rose from the mist, colorless and silent. No birds circled above it. No waves crashed against its shores. Even the sea seemed reluctant to touch it. Sinbad ordered the ship to anchor. "I will go alone," he said. The sand beneath his feet was cold, despite the rising sun. Each step felt like walking through a memory long abandoned. Ahead lay a village built of pale stone, its houses simple and unadorned. People stood in the streets. They did not speak. They did not smile. They did not cry. They only watched. Sinbad approached an elderly man seated beside a cracked wall. His eyes were open, but empty, as if he were looking through the world rather than at it. "Peace be upon you," Sinbad said. The man responded slowly. "Peace left this land long ago." "What is this place?" Sinbad asked. The man hesitated. "It has no name anymore. Names belong to things that still hope." Sinbad felt a chill. "Where are the children? Where is laughter? Where are tears?" The man pointed toward the mountains beyond the village. All of it went to the river. The path was narrow and white, winding through stone formations shaped like frozen waves. With every step, the silence deepened, pressing against Sinbad's chest. As they walked, the man spoke. "Once, we dreamed, we loved, we lost. But loss piled upon loss until hope became too heavy to carry. When people cried without believing tomorrow could be better, their tears had nowhere to go. They stopped. Ahead lay the river. It did not flow. Stretching across the valley was a vast ribbon of crystal ice, glowing faintly beneath the sky. Within the frozen surface were shapes, faces, hands, moments caught forever. A woman reaching forward. A child calling out. A man kneeling in despair. "These are not reflections," the man whispered. "They are memories." Sinbad knelt and touched the ice. The cold pierced deeper than flesh. It reached into his heart, awakening old fears nights lost at sea, the terror of drowning, the loneliness of survival. "Can it be melted?" Sinbad asked. The man shook his head. Many tried. Fire failed. Tools shattered. The river freezes what despair creates. That night, Sinbad remained by the river alone. He remembered his first voyage, his arrogance, his fear, the times he believed he would never return home. He remembered crying into the sea, believing his story would end there. But it had not, because even in despair, he had hoped. Sinbad placed both hands on the ice. He did not speak. He did not pray. He remembered a sound echoed through the valley. "Akraki!" The ice trembled beneath Sinbad's palms. Thin lines spread like veins of light. The frozen faces began to blur. Behind him, footsteps approached. The villagers watched in disbelief as the ice softness, melting not with heat, but with memory. Water emerged, clear, flowing, alive. Someone began to cry. This time, the tears fell freely. The river flowed again. Laffy returned, hesitant at first, then bold. Children ran where silence once ruled. Birds circled overhead, as if they had been waiting all along. The elderly man stood beside Sinbad, tears streaming down his face. "You reminded us," he said, "that hope is not something we create. It is something we remember." Sinbad smiled gently, "and something we must protect." At sunrise, Sinbad returned to his ship. The island behind him shimmered briefly, then faded into mist. When his crew asked for its name, Sinbad shook his head. "Some places exist only to teach," he said, "not to be found again." The wind shifted. This time, it carried warmth. Sinbad never sought treasure after that journey. He carried something great at truth, whispered by a river that once wept in silence. Hope does not erase sorrow. It gives sorrow a way to flow. And as long as people remember this, no tear will ever remain frozen forever. If you enjoyed this long, magical tale, don't forget to subscribe, where ancient legends and timeless stories come alive again.